Well, here we are with another set of the Jerry has spent way too much money on TwoSuns knives right around the holiday season. This is going to have 7, possibly 8 knives in it that I'm going to cover here. I did open them up a day or two ago. I didn't film the unboxing, but I will, give you my impressions and all that sort of stuff on them. I do have about 5 more that are coming on the way, but I don't know, with the way the weather's been and how slow China Post actually is compared to Hong Kong Post that they have been sending a whole bunch of stuff in for years. I don't know exactly when they're going to show up, maybe another week or so. So, yeah, here we are. This first one is a TS327, and I have 2 variants of it here. Of course, we have the titanium, we'll call it a subframe lock. And we have the more budget-oriented micarta version of it here. This is a Caleb Fechner design. Haven't seen his work around for a little bit. Obviously, he's done stuff like the TS67 Shinobi and the TS115. I don't think it has a name, but it had some green G10 and some carbon fiber laminate kind of stuff going on there. But yes, this is a pretty new design from him. We can see the blades are pretty much identical, as you would assume. Let's see, the more expensive one here is an M390, as we can see. And there we go. We got D2 on this one here. And both of these are really flat, like very flat. There's no contouring or anything going on here, which some people like. I do actually prefer a little bit more contouring on my knives in general. So, in my particular opinion, that's kind of a negative on this one. It does impact the ergonomics on it a little bit, kind of like this TS303 that I'm still trying to finish up the cut testing on here. Just a little bit chunky in the hands rather than conforming to it. I will say that the M390 on this gave me a heck of a lot of problems to end up sharpening on it. So it's probably going to do a decent job of, its hardness and actually holding an edge. Yeah, I got some schmutz and stuff on them from cutting with them recently. Something that you probably want to know on these guys is it is not exactly a slicey blade geometry. Yes, this is in the 300 series, but they are really thick behind the edge, a lot like their under 100 series models. So this thing isn't really designed to be a laser beam. It's really designed for doing a lot more hard use kind of stuff. You can also see that there by the saber grind that we have here rather than the full flat or anything like that. And it's not hollow ground either, which might have helped out a little bit on there. I don't know. So, for me personally, I think if you are looking for this knife, you're not really missing a whole lot by going with the cheaper variant of it here. The micarta is actually really rough. It's kind of interesting. I'm actually trying to possibly try to polish this micarta up just because I haven't done it before, and this has kind of a little bit more of a texture that I would want to change on there. But the ergonomics are exactly the same. The dimensions are pretty much exactly the same there. And you get some nested liners here. Neither one of them have lock bar cutouts on them, so there's that. I mean, they both have the scallop there for it. But yeah, I mean, as far as the whole experience, this one actually has a slightly better action to it. Probably due to it being a liner lock, so they can kind of tune that detent ball for the flipper tab just a little bit more. But they're both decently nice knives, just not exactly the most ergonomic things in the world. And yes, this is actual carbon fiber. It's not a carbon fiber G10 laminate. You can see the grains going all the way through there. But I'm just not a huge fan of these holes that don't particularly do much. But, I mean, that's, you know, an aesthetic sort of thing, so, you know, your mileage may vary on that. Let's see, the blade length on these are about 3.3 inches, looks like, somewhere right around there. So, yeah, they work pretty well. Definitely has the ability to have my full four-finger grip on there, so that's always something that I personally enjoy. And that standard deep carry clip on this thing doesn't really get in the way all that much. This pocket clip is just a little bit more comfortable in general, but hey, what are you going to do there? Yeah, so the hole also, you can do the Spidey flick on it. It's a little difficult for me because I have kind of larger fingers, but still very, very possible to do. So, yeah, that was the 327 there. Let's see. Well, I don't have any particular order that these are going to go in here. So, yeah, here's this one. This is a Wong Design. Kind of reminiscent of some of his others here. This is the 287. This is an 14C28N with a satin finish, which, as I've discussed, but I'm not quite sure if I put the video up or not, that might be going away. Or becoming very much not the norm for a lot of that stuff. But yes, this in a lot of ways actually reminds me of the what is it, TS158, that little tiny cute guy with a carbon fiber titanium thing. Yeah, this is kind of like a larger version of that. Same kind of blade shape. We also have the fuller there, but this thing is obviously way larger and longer. Yeah, we're coming in basically like 3 3/4 inches there. Action on them is pretty darn nice. The flipper tab works out all right, and depending on your finger, you can also get the middle finger flick there with the fuller, but it is pretty close to the handle there. So you know, your mileage may vary on how easy that might be for you. It is also kind of interesting that the carbon fiber sits up a bit more proud on this side. It's just the way that they had to end up doing the lock bar here with it. But yeah, it's a fairly nice and comfortable knife. It's not exactly a... it's basically a straight back, but you can see there's a curve in there, but it curves right back out to a straight back. And we have just another little swedge going on up here. Something interesting about this one, too, that is interesting is the flats on this, which you mostly can't see, are stonewashed. And then they've done the finish afterwards. Which, I mean, I guess that makes sense if that was the blade stock that they were cutting it out of, if they stonewashed the whole sheet rather than cutting out the knives and doing it first or something like that. But you know, it is 14C28N, so I would appreciate having the stonewash down there, since they'd already spent the extra time and money to do that. But overall, yeah, this very much does have Wong's design language kind of going on there. It is fairly reminiscent of some of the more popular ones out there as well. I mean, it's a little bit more curved, but like the TS89 and the 127, stuff like that. Pretty decent knife. Maybe not exactly my absolute favorite that Wong has ever produced, but it's still very nice and ergonomic. And I don't really find any faults necessarily with it. It's just maybe not something that would be up everyone's alley. Let's see, we got another one here. This is an oldie that they've kind of reproduced. This is the TS64. Yep, you can definitely see. We got D2 steel on here. We got blackened titanium. It's probably a carbonitride coating, but they don't really speak to that themselves. But they are pretty scratch resistant on the few knives like the Balian that I've definitely carried quite a bit with this type of coating on here. It's got some 2 large holes going on in the front here. It's kind of interesting. You can stick your finger all the way in there and guillotine it down if you're really looking for a torture device or something like that. But otherwise, this is another big guy. This is bigger than I actually anticipated it being. Yeah, a little over 3.5 inches, but the blade is very tall on this thing. We do have a finger choil going on here. It's fairly large for NightMorning's kind of finger choils, but it's still just a little bit too small for me to comfortably want to use that. Something very interesting about this thing is even though this is a sub 100 model, the grind on this is almost like a laser beam. They really did a good job of getting a super thin edge going on here. And that's pretty darn impressive overall. The handle on it's pretty comfortable, fairly neutral. This was a little bit more of their experimental phase and trying to figure out some contouring and things like that on the titanium. So it's not the absolute most comfortable thing you've ever put in your paws, but very, very competent as far as all that goes. We do have lock bar cutout access here, and they're also scalloped on that side. Makes it super easy to close that thing up, even in gloves. So that's pretty darn nice. And we can see basically up top here with the flipper tab and some of these lines here, kind of looks like I don't know, like a little bit of a mountain top sort of thing going on there. I would say mesa, but it's not quite flat on the top there, but kind of off to the side, like a tilted mesa maybe. I don't know. And this one also does a pretty good job of protecting that blade from the top of the path there. It does look a little bit close there, but I can't get my fingers in there. So, hooray! Yeah, like I said, this one's a fairly old design. You can also get your middle finger in there, just like the other two that I was talking about. It is a little bit more difficult for me with larger fingertips, but it's definitely possible there. Let's see. Since I did talk about an old one, I have another old one here. This was also a re-release or so from it. And this one, you can see it's also a little bit older, as we do have the NightMorning design in the kind of wispy, what's the word for it? Well, it's not, but cursive was the word I was thinking of. But yeah, he's got his old sort of thing going on there. This is a D2 one. This is the TS223. Pretty sure on that. But I might be wrong, so apologies on that. But this thing is, well, the blade on it is thick as hell. It's like a 4mm blade stock on this thing. But kind of a smaller handle there. We got a little bit of a dip going on there. The blade actually starts at sharpened point, basically way up here. So that is kind of an interesting triangular kind of sharpening choil going on there. A little interesting, but yeah, it works out all right. I probably wouldn't try to use it as a finger choil, but you can do that if you want. We got right around 3.5 inches there. This is a fairly standard American style tanto here with the D2 blade. Another kind of interesting one for them to kind of bring back. It does remind me a little bit of the 21 that they seem to continually produce quite a bit of. That one had those weird notches in the screws because they weren't actually Torx. I do actually like that one a little bit more, but I mean, also Tantos aren't exactly my absolute favorite thing on the planet. But yeah, it's fairly interesting. I'm glad to have it in my collection. We got some jimping or crenellation kind of things going on up top there. And this is also one where they've mounted the pocket clip from the inside just to keep that screw hole just a little bit cleaner. So I do definitely like that, but at the same time, that does mean that you do have a screw going directly into titanium. So, excuse me, if something does start to go wrong on it or something like that, then you're going to have that to basically end up having troubles with it. I guess if you do end up getting this thing a little bit loose, you probably could do something super crazy, like throwing some permanent Loctite in there and then screwing it in, letting it cure for the 24 hours, and that'll probably hold on to it for you. Let's see, the next one here, and this one is quite a bit of a disappointment, unfortunately. This is another one from D. Antimonov. This is the TS223. And the other one that I had talked about, it did have a really crazy kind of blade to it, but the ergonomics on it were pretty fantastic. The front flipping action was great on it. And this one kind of took ergonomics and completely threw them out the window, unfortunately, at least as far as I can see here. Very, very flat and boxy. No attempt at contouring at all. I can kind of understand some people wanting to keep a specific pattern on a weave or something like that to keep it kind of flat. But it's so boxy that, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Also, very, very pointy up here by the lanyard hole, to the point where I cannot hold this thing in a saber grip because it's just way too uncomfortable to do so. Works all right in a hammer grip, obviously, because I'm not my hand isn't back there. And it kind of works in a reverse hammer grip. For one, I don't know necessarily why you would want to hold it this way, because you don't really have a huge amount of piercing power on this sheep's cliff, worn foot, whatever you want to call it, kind of blade. But it's also very, very wide up here, so it's not super comfortable to rest your thumb on the back end there either. This one did come with a bit of a snaggle tooth on it, as I end up calling it, or basically when the blade sticks up too far when the thing's closed there. So I ended up grinding that down. So you can see it does kind of cant a little bit further back this way on my particular model here, and that's because I did that. I also did the stone washing on this, just a quick job that I did, along with the next one that I will be looking at here. It does have a hole, but there is absolutely no way, unless you're an ant, that you can actually get a finger in there. You can loosen or get over the detent ball there at the bottom, but that does actually kind of feel a little bit bad. It doesn't actually rub up against the steel there, but just doesn't feel super good to do that. So for the most part, this is a front flipper. Not a whole lot else I can really say on this one. Not a super huge fan of it. I would also venture to, with how thin these titanium liners are down here, probably call this a bolster lock rather than a subframe lock, just because you don't have a huge amount of bulk going on here. It's still a very, very structurally sound design, just not quite as thick in the liners or scales than what you might otherwise expect. So, yeah, it's not a bad design necessarily, but really not something that I will probably end up carrying quite a bit. Okay, here we are. We have another NightMorning design. This one's fairly new as well. Whole bunch of holes going all the way through the titanium there, and then a small amount there. And see, we have an incredibly long clip on this. I don't necessarily mind those at all, but it's not exactly a popular kind of thing here. This is the TS383. It's in 14C28N. As I said earlier, it's a NightMorning design. We don't have billboarding on the blade because we do have it on the handle scale here. A lot like the TS49, and there's a couple others that do that kind of thing. This one also I ended up stone washing, and this one's snaggletooth, if you will, ran all the way back to the back spacer over here. I took off a ton of material on this to make sure that I couldn't slice myself up with it because it was real bad. I have heard some people don't have those problems on some of these particular knives, and I guess that might have to do with them doing some undergrinding on some of them. That was kind of the case with the Mazwan Mokhtar Barracuda that I got. That Mazwan basically told me, yeah, they underground the crap out of that because it shouldn't have any blade wrap whatsoever on it. So that could be possibly what's going on. But either way, yeah, I've fixed that by zipping that off. It was a little bit more flat, but I don't mind having a bit of a cant. For me, helps a little bit when I'm powering through some cuts anyway. So yes, the reason why I did the stonewash on these two was because I'd already basically ground down the little snaggletooth sort of areas there. And it was taking a long time for me to do the sharpening on it to bring those back down to, an actual blade apex. So I figured, well, if I'm going to already have to resharpen them, I might as well do a quick little stone wash on these things so that that won't end up deterring me anymore. Or if I wanted to do a stone wash on them later, because I would have to resharpen the blades again. This one here has this weird lanyard piece on the end here. Again, jabs right into my palm. So it's not the most egregious thing in the known universe, but it's still really not something that I personally prefer. This one wouldn't prevent me from carrying the knife. But, yeah, I really wouldn't want to use this for a whole lot of hard use applications just because of that ridiculous hotspot we got going on there. But, hammer grip works super great on there. If you did want to do a reverse hammer grip on there, yep, you got the nice pokey tip going on there and a place for you to curl and secure your thumb, so that works out all right. And almost all of these work pretty well with that reverse or paring knife kind of grip. I'll do that for something like looping rope around so I can separate it like that. And that works out all right. We have a decent amount of lock bar clearance here, as well as scallops. So this one works pretty darn well in gloved hands as well. And this one's 3.5 inches, looks like. Maybe just a little slightly bit under because of that little area there. And because I forgot to do that on this one. Yeah, this one's basically 3 3/4 inch. So, pretty darn large there. This one also has the screw that goes all the way through. This one is using one of their newer pieces of hardware, where this is basically the cylindrical piece of a Chicago screw, but it ends in an actual threaded piece that goes through here. So to actually take this one apart, it's a little bit different. You have to take this one off, and then everything from the lock bar side. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but hey, it works out all right. This isn't the first knife that I've seen that's done that. But it's a fairly new piece of hardware that they've ended up using. It's not a bad knife overall, but still not exactly one of my absolute favorites either. And those are the ones that I think I haven't covered because they're super new. There's also this one, which I don't know if I'd actually covered it before in the past. But I do kind of like this thing here. This is a Wong Design. It's the 286. This is, Yeah, I'm old enough to think that that's a processor from Intel. Oh well. But yeah, this thing ground really nice and thin. They did a good job of the factory stone washing on there. A large finger choil there because it's Wong, and we do have the scallops there, or the jimping and stuff like that if you do want to creep up on there. But it's also super comfortable to hold back here as well. Really kind of an interesting drop point thing going on here. And it's got their micarta for the handle scales on there. It doesn't bother me all that much on this particular one. They've done a pretty good job, and it's contoured very well against the titanium. But yeah, this one's grown on me quite a bit, especially for using it at a pairing grasp. Having that kind of divot there really helps get you really locked in for doing a lot of that stuff. And it works out pretty well. It's a nice one. I do like it quite a bit. Fairly large and chunky pocket clip, but works out pretty darn well for that. This one, as you can see, we have a single screw going into micarta, but this one also underneath the pocket clip here. I suppose I could probably just open that thing up real quick. Come on, buddy. You can do it. Yeah. So he has a pin also that goes in there to give it a second anchor point. And that really structurally helps out the micarta there. So I don't really anticipate this thing having those same kind of issues that NightMorning has had on a couple of his, where the pocket clip is only anchored by one point into micarta, so it can cause some problems there. It's still not like the absolute most secure thing in the known universe. I keep saying the known universe tonight. I don't know what's going on with that. But, yeah, it seems to work out all right. Nice and structurally sound. So, yes, I like this one. Like I said, I don't remember if I've actually had this covered on the channel or not. Because, well, I don't know. But I've had it for, I don't know, a month and a half or something like that. Yeah, we're over 3.5 inches on this thing, so it's a pretty large thing there. We can see a very exaggerated distal taper there. So thick here, going thin there, as well as down towards the bottom, in case that's not a particular phrase that you're familiar with. Something that Spydercos do a lot. And yeah, it works out great. And the action on this thing is super nice, especially for it having the stone wash going on there. Yeah. So those are more knives that I have ended up picking up here. I suppose I can move these in the order that I pulled them out for. We got the TS327 by Caleb Fechner. We got the TS64 from NightMorning. We have the, what is this, the TS287 from Wong. We have the TS43, pretty sure, on from NightMorning Design. We got the TS333 from D. Antimonov, and then this guy here, the TS383 from NightMorning. And of course, we also have this one, the 286 from Wong here. So yeah, this was another fun set of knives. I can't really say that I'm absolutely in love with any of these that I've particularly got in this batch. The 64 is kind of interesting, just having it being a sub $100 or sub 100 model knife that has a very thin grind on it, so that's pretty cool. This guy right here and this guy right here are both pretty darn comfortable in the hand, but yeah, I do have some more coming. I have basically one more batch, like I said at the beginning of the video, that might take another week or two to get here. Not quite sure. But that does include there's a new tepe design one out there. It's the TS3 something or other. I don't remember exactly. But that one's going to be pretty interesting to take a look at because it's kind of a larger one, and that's something that I've had a little bit of trouble with some of the tepe designs in the past. Is they're generally designed for the smaller side of EDC, which means a lot of them don't fit my hands. This one certainly does look like it's going to. There's also the Kodiak, that interesting one with the finger hole basically around a large pivot for the blade there. I think that's the TS234. There's also the TS351, which is a Mexnium design, which I've actually purchased before any of these, but it's been one of the problems of being held up in customs and being resent. So hopefully I get that. There's also a fixed blade from Mexnium that I'm going to be getting around that same time. I think it's probably 4.5 or 5-inch blade on there with a bone handle. Looks pretty interesting. And I also have another fixed blade from Maswan Mokhtar coming. It looks a lot like the Puffer, but maybe just a little bit larger and maybe even a little bit more ergonomic. I don't know. But those are all of them that I have personally picked up. Yeah, I'm waiting for some stuff. There hasn't been a whole lot of stuff from like SHOT Show that I was really interested in. There's another Civivi button lock, done a lot like the Cogent, but a little bit smaller. That's not really interesting to me. Is the Cogent didn't already fit my hands, so not super interested in that. Yeah, like SOG, Spyderco, Benchmade, a lot of them just really didn't have anything that was super interesting to me. I might end up picking up something like the case Kinzwa. It's one of their frame lock flippers, just because it's something kind of new and well, it's fairly affordable for what they've actually put into it. The Kinzwa originally only came out in a tanto point, which really wasn't super interested in, but they are going to be coming out with some drop points here in the next couple of months or so. So I'd possibly pick something like that up. And Kaiser was not at the show at all, but I do know they have some new things coming. There's a Kaiser Big Later XL that White Mountain Knives is going to be getting in that I'm probably pretty interested in picking up, and I don't know. We'll see how everything else kind of plays out. But well, that's what I have for the moment. This video went on a while, but I suppose I did some measurements and other stuff with them. So all right, yep, that's everything that I particularly had to say on this another set of knives. So. I'll see you for more content later on in the week. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo.